Let's talk about how to break your phone addiction in 3 painfully simple steps. 6 weeks ago, I shared an embarrassing confession on my own personal challenges with a phone addiction. It all began on a Think Week retreat in January when I pondered a single question. If I were the main character in a movie of my life, what would the audience be screaming at me to do right now? The answer, in this case, felt blindingly obvious. Get off the damn phone. I realized personally that everything I wanted to achieve in my personal and professional life seemed like a natural downstream consequence of spending less time on my phone. More connected relationships with my wife, with my son, with my family, deep, higher quality output on my most important projects, improved balance, and day-to-day happiness. So I decided to actually do something about it. I created a plan to break my phone addiction in 30 days. And I wrote about that plan in my newsletter and recorded a video and shared it with all of you in the podcast and on YouTube. Thousands of you replied with positive responses, many declaring an intention or a desire to do the same. It seems like this is a common problem. But plans are nothing without execution. The world is filled with half-kept promises and unfulfilled intentions. You get the cheap dopamine hit from declaring your plan publicly like I did, and then do precisely nothing to actually follow through on it. So, in the interest of full transparency that I am all about, today I am proud to share the receipts of what I went out and did. The results of the phone addiction intervention, the tangible impact and ripple effects that it had on my life, and the specific tactics that worked that you can steal and apply today. So let's dive right into it. First, the results. The before and after of my phone use data tells basically the entire story here. My screen time was down 70% from 6 hours, 26 minutes per day, cringe, to 1 hour, 57 minutes per day. And my pickups, that is how many times you pick up and look at your phone, was down 50% from 131 to 65. Those numbers are even more striking when you actually aggregate them across a month or a year. At the after levels, those numbers that I just said, the after effects, I got back 134 hours each month. 134 hours in a single month I got back. That's nearly 6 days of awake hours that are no longer spent looking at my phone. Play that out over a year and you get 1,635 hours. That is 68 days of life reclaimed from a single behavior change. Let that sink in. My mind is utterly blown. The life impact. I'm not going to sugarcoat it at all. This was the single most powerful behavior change I've ever made in terms of a tangible impact and ripple effects on my life. That is not an exaggeration. I'll break it down across 3 major areas. First, my family and relationships. I didn't tell my extended family that I was making this change. Only my wife knew. But within 2 weeks, I had received multiple comments from family members, including my mom and in-laws, about my perceived presence, happiness, and lower stress levels. In each case, they assumed that something was going well in my work or life. And in each case, I informed them that it was actually much simpler than that. I just didn't have my phone on me. My wife said she noticed an immediate impact in how attentive I was being with her. My time with my son felt much more engaged and even vibrant. I was more present, less stressed, and able to connect on an entirely different level. In short, I showed up more aligned with how my ideal self would. Work. My capacity for deep work expanded significantly from simply placing my phone in another room or a lockbox. Reviewing the research, this isn't surprising. There is clear scientific evidence that even having your phone in your pocket or on the desk in front of you reduces your cognitive capacity. I got more done faster at a higher quality bar. It was like the holy trinity of productivity improvement with no fancy productivity tool required. Overall happiness. I felt happier and less stressed immediately upon making the change. I believe the 2 biggest drivers of this were, number 1, improved compartmentalization. When I was on my phone, it was for a clear value add purpose. When I was off my phone, I was focused on the work or the people in front of me. The clear lines replaced the blurred ones from the life prior to this intervention. And number 2, less exposure to negativity. The size of my platform today exposes me to a lot of direct negativity on social media and occasionally via rude emails. Also, the more time you spend on social media, the darker your perception of reality becomes. Reduced time on social media meant reduced exposure to all forms of negativity. So, just keeping score, this was a single, zero-cost behavior change that had the net effect of 1, improving my relationships, 2, improving my work, and 3, improving my happiness. To be completely transparent, just a few days into the change, the only negative thought I really had related to the intervention was simple. Why didn't I do this sooner? The specific tactics. Okay, hopefully I've convinced you that this is something you can and probably should do. Now for the guide on how to do it. Please share and steal this. I tried a bunch of things as part of this phone addiction intervention. Here's exactly what worked. 3 things. Number 1, Grayscale Mode. Put your phone on Grayscale Mode. You can see gray if you're watching the video version of this right now. For the entire day. Grayscale Mode removes the colors on your phone to make it less appealing and addicting. It takes 30 seconds to set up. If you have an iPhone, you just go to Settings, Accessibility, Display and Text Size, Color Filters on, and Grayscale, and then you can create a shortcut. Settings, Accessibility, Accessibility Shortcut, Color Filters. If you triple-click the side button now, you'll be able to toggle it on and off quite easily. For non-iPhone users, you can go to the link in the newsletter or the web version of this and just click to find instructions or just do a simple Google search. I kept my phone on Grayscale Mode at all times and only removed it for specific reasons, like posting something that maybe required me to see color, looking at photos, etc. It made me just less interested in grabbing my phone for the random just checks during the course of the day. Number 2, no phone zones. I set specific locations, times, and events where I wasn't going to have my phone on me. I called them no phone zones. Downstairs, creative flow time, which was mornings from 5 to 8 a.m., family flow time, which was evenings from 5 to 7 p.m., and family gatherings. During these windows, my phone would be in a lockbox or in a drawer in my office. If we were out at a family gathering, I would leave it in my car or in my wife's bag where I couldn't feel it. Specifically naming these no phone zones had the benefit of making it a clear rule that I could cement in my mind. Create your list of no phone zones. Write it down if you need to. And number 3, strategic friction. Even with the Grayscale Mode and no phone zones, my phone addiction would have been difficult to execute without this, final piece of the puzzle. Motivation and discipline are never enough when you're trying to crack a deeply entrenched behavior. There's a theory in cognitive science that speaks to this called choice architecture, which is the idea that you can design your environment to make good choices easier and bad choices harder. Basically, I wanted to add strategic friction to make it much easier to adhere to my rules and much more difficult to break them. There were 3 primary ways I did that. First, I locked my phone in a lockbox during my morning creative flow and evening family flow. It was a timed lock, so I could not get it without emailing the company. I left my phone far away from where I was going to be working. If I wanted to get it, I'd have to walk to the other side of the house or down a few flights of stairs to get it. And finally, I added really low screen time restrictions to social apps. If I wanted to overuse them, I'd have to keep approving more time, which felt like letting myself down when I did it. Breaking the addiction is going to be difficult at first. Create strategic friction that helps you stick to the change. Make it difficult to make a bad choice. I should mention that there were a few things that gave me trouble or that didn't really stick. First, the digital Sabbath. I attempted to do a full no phone day 1 day per week. It was logistically very challenging given it tended to coincide with a family outing when I needed my phone for a variety of reasons. I will continue to experiment with this, but found the digital Sabbath largely unnecessary when my daily use was down so much to a lower baseline level overall. Number 2, travel days. Some of the worst setbacks I had were during travel days to and from various speaking engagements. I was stuck in airports during delays, sitting in Ubers, etc. My default setting to grab my phone was really highlighted during those periods. Overreaction stress was the third. Overcorrection stress was the third. This was an interesting one. I started to feel a pang of stress when I'd need to use my phone, knowing that I was trying to reduce my screen time. The metric of screen time became a minor obsession. So even legitimate uses, like booking an alternative flight during a bad delay, felt almost painful. It was bizarre, but worth noting as something you might experience if you're wired like me. Finally, the last struggle was gym sessions. I'm still working on how to reduce my phone usage during my workouts. I tend to check my phone between sets and during my rest intervals. Taken all together, I really meant what I wrote earlier in this piece, spoke earlier in the podcast, and earlier in this video. Why didn't I do this sooner? I was correct in my belief that everything I wanted to improve in my life was downstream from spending less time on my phone. I've seen it, I've felt the impact, now I just want to compound it. In the coming months, I'm going to attempt to push my screen time even lower to see if there are diminishing returns to further reductions. I hope this recording really helped push you to make this change in your life. Start small and stick to it. Aim for a 10 to 20% screen time reduction week over week. Keep yourself accountable with a friend or send me a message to let me know you're doing it and hold yourself accountable. Having now gone through it, I can guarantee you'll see and feel the positive impact immediately. Onward and upward. That's all for today's piece. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll share it with others. If you did enjoy this, you're going to love my first book, The 5 Types of Wealth. It's a New York Times bestseller, and you can order it now on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. As always, until next time, stay curious, friends.